Adanna, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you say that was your first time?
It didn't matter. It doesn't matter now. This was a mistake.
A mistake? Adanna, what happened last night wasn't a mistake. It was special. It was your
My boss! This isn't right, Mason. We come from different worlds. Don't you see that?
Different worlds? Adanna, look at me. I don't care about that. I love you.
Just let me go.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Afro-Korean Soul Tales. Today, I have a story that is going to grip your heart, twist it, and then put it back together in the most unexpected way. It is a tale of betrayal, destiny, and a love that defies the odds. But before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, I need you to do something for me. If you want to see how a broken heart can lead to a billionaire's mansion, you need to smash that subscribe button right now. Don't just watch, join the family. Like this video, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to find out what happens next. Are you ready? Let's begin. The beat of the bass was heavy enough to rattle the bones of anyone standing within a 5-mile radius. Inside the exclusive Gangnam Club, the air was thick, a suffocating cocktail of expensive perfume, stale cigarette smoke, and the metallic tang of spilled alcohol. Strobing lights cut through the darkness, illuminating bodies that writhed in rhythm to the deafening music. It was a chaotic sea of indulgence. Women in skirts that barely clung to their hips grinded against men who looked like they had more money than sense. In the darker corners, shadows merged as couples kissed with reckless abandon, while plumes of sweet-smelling hookah smoke drifted up from the VIP circular booths like lazy ghosts. Standing near the bar, trying to look unimpressed by the hedonism around them, were 3 young women. "This place is absolutely incredible," Sora shouted over the music, her eyes wide as she scanned the room. The sheer energy of the place was infectious, a living, breathing entity. Gina nodded, her head bobbing to the beat. "I'm having the time of my life. The drinks, the music, it's perfect." Sora turned to their third companion, who was leaning against the bar with a look of utter disdain plastered across her face. "Hannah, aren't you having fun? You look like you're at a funeral." Hannah rolled her eyes, swirling the ice in her drink with aggressive boredom. "Please. This place is terrible. I'm bored out of my mind. It's loud, it's sticky, and it's full of losers." "How can you say that?" Sora gestured wildly around them. "Look at everyone. Everyone is having a great time." "Everyone except me," Hannah muttered, taking a sip of her cocktail and grimacing. "What is actually wrong with it?" Gina asked, leaning in with genuine concern. "Can't you see?" Hannah sighed, scanning the crowd with a critical eye. "There isn't a single attractive guy here worth 2 seconds of my attention. It's a wasteland." Her tone dripped with disappointed entitlement. But as if the universe had been waiting for her complaint, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The heavy velvet ropes near the VIP entrance parted, and a hush seemed to ripple through the crowd before the noise surged back up, louder than before. A man walked through the doors, and he didn't just walk, he glided. Sora gasped, gripping Hannah's arm hard enough to bruise. "Oh my God, girls. Look who just walked in." Gina's jaw dropped. "It's Seo Ji-hoon," she breathed, the name escaping her lips like a prayer. "My celebrity crush. The CEO of Hanglo Records." Hannah's head snapped up. "Where?" Sora pointed a trembling finger across the room. "Right there. Don't tell me you're blind." Hannah's entire demeanor transformed in a nanosecond. The boredom vanished, replaced by a predatory focus. She smoothed her hair and licked her lips. "He's exactly my type. That man is gorgeous." Seo Ji-hoon was a vision of cold perfection. Dressed in a black silk shirt that hinted at the lean muscle beneath, he moved through the club with an air of detachment, as if he were observing a zoo exhibit rather than participating in a party. Sora and Gina exchanged knowing glances, clapping their hands together in glee. "Go get him, girl," Sora encouraged. Hannah smiled, a determined, dangerous gleam in her eye. "You two have fun. I'm about to make this night very interesting." She had admired Seo Ji-hoon for years. She had followed his career, watched every interview, and consumed every rumor. Rumors of his recent breakup with a high-profile actress had been circulating for weeks, and Hannah smelled blood in the water. She smoothed down her impossibly short dress, took a deep breath to enhance her cleavage, and walked toward him with practiced, swaying confidence. Each step was calculated. "Hi there, Prince Charming," she said, sliding into his line of sight and blocking his path to the VIP booth. "You look lonely. I thought you might want some company." Ji-hoon didn't even look up from the drink he had just ordered. His profile was sharp, chiseled from marble. "I'm not lonely," he said, his voice a deep, resonant baritone that sent shivers down her spine. "I prefer to be alone." Hannah pouted, a practiced expression she knew usually worked on lesser men. "If you wanted to be alone, a strip club was probably the wrong choice, don't you think?" "I know," he said, finally glancing at her with eyes that held zero warmth. "I just need the music and some alcohol to clear my head. It's loud enough to drown out thoughts." When their eyes met, Hannah felt her knees actually weaken. The photographs didn't do him justice. In person, he was breathtaking, a lethal combination of elegance and power. "A little dancing with me would help even more than the alcohol," she managed to say, forcing her voice to remain steady. "I'm a great dancer." "Dancing with you isn't on my agenda," Ji-hoon said flatly, turning his shoulder to her. "Why not? One dance won't hurt." Hannah reached out, her fingers tracing a bold line down his chest. He stepped back as if she were contagious. "Look, this really isn't a good idea. I'm not interested." She moved closer, invading his personal space, leaning in until her lips nearly brushed his ear. The scent of his expensive cologne was intoxicating. "Please don't make me beg," she whispered, dropping her voice to a husky purr. Ji-hoon sighed, a sound of pure exhaustion. He just wanted the pestering to stop. "Fine. One dance. That's it." Hannah smiled triumphantly, grabbing his hand and leading him to the center of the dance floor. The opening notes of a popular bass-heavy track thundered through the speakers. She began moving against him immediately, her body pressing close, swaying to the rhythm with explicit intent. She could feel the heat radiating from him, could sense the tension in his muscles. "I think we're done," Ji-hoon said suddenly after less than a minute. He pulled away, his patience evaporated. "I need to go." "No, wait," Hannah said, panic flaring. This wasn't how the fantasy was supposed to go. Before he could protest, she lunged forward and smashed her lips against his. It wasn't romantic. It was an ambush. Ji-hoon pushed her away reflexively, harder than he had intended. Hannah stumbled backward in her towering heels, flailed for balance, and hit the floor with a sickening, audible thud. The music didn't stop, but the area around them erupted into chaos. "Hey, are you okay?" Panic flashed across Ji-hoon's face. He knelt beside her, tapping her shoulder. She lay completely still, her limbs sprawled awkwardly. People swarmed around them. He pushed her, someone shouted. Phones were whipped out instantly, recording the scene. The flash of cameras blinded him. Ji-hoon could already imagine the headlines, the social media firestorm, the destruction of his reputation. Hannah's eyes fluttered open, glassy and unfocused. "I feel so dizzy," she whispered weakly, clutching her head. "Please, take me home." Then her eyes rolled back, and her body went limp again. "What's your address?" Ji-hoon asked urgently, shaking her gently. "Miss? Where do you live?" No response. He cursed under his breath, a sharp, bitter sound. He had no choice. The cameras were rolling. Leaving her here would be career suicide. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She felt suspiciously light, but he didn't have time to analyze it. He carried her through the gawking crowd, his security team finally cutting a path toward the exit. Across the room, Sora and Gina watched the entire scene unfold with their mouths open. "What is wrong with you?" Gina said, starting forward. "We need to help Hannah." "What if she's really hurt?" That was a hard fall. Sora caught her arm, a knowing, cynical smile playing at her lips. "Relax. You're acting like you don't know Hannah at all." "What do you mean?" "She wants that guy," Sora whispered, watching Ji-hoon carry their friend out. "This is all part of her plan." "The faint? The dizziness?" "It's a classic move." "Are you sure about that?" Trust me, Sora said, laughing softly. She knows exactly what she's doing. She just scored a ride with Seo Ji-hoon. Come on, let's get out of here. She won't be needing us tonight. Miles away from the neon glow of the club, the city of Seoul was weeping. A torrential rain hammered against the pavement, turning the streets into rivers of black oil and reflection. Adanna shivered as she walked through the downpour. The cold bit through her thin dress, sinking into her bones, but the physical chill was nothing compared to the ice in her chest. She knew it was late. She knew it was dangerous for a young woman to be walking alone in this part of the city at this hour. But she couldn't bring herself to care. Her mind was a broken record, replaying the scene with Mason over and over again. You're my employee. We come from different worlds. How could he? How could he end their 5-year relationship on her birthday? A painful, bitter smile crossed her face as she looked down at her soaked attire. She had spent weeks saving up for this dress. She had done her hair, put on makeup, and prepared her heart to give him the one thing she had saved for marriage. And he had taken it, discarded it, and then discarded her. He had even given her a present, a cheap bracelet, before delivering the news that he no longer wanted her. It hurt. God, it hurt immensely. It felt like someone had reached inside her chest and squeezed her lungs until they popped. But she refused to cry. She lifted her chin against the driving rain. She wasn't the type to shed tears over such things. If she hadn't cried when the police told her that her parents had died in a fatal automobile accident back in Lagos, why would she cry over a man? She would be strong. She had always been strong. Adanna was a striking 20-year-old woman fighting to survive in Seoul, a city that could be as cold as it was beautiful. She had lost her parents at 6, shipped off to live with an uncle in Korea who barely wanted her. When he died 4 years later, she was tossed into the foster care system, a black girl in a homogeneous society, sticking out like a sore thumb, fighting for every scrap of dignity she possessed. She was independent now. She had to be. Adanna was what anyone would call a beauty queen, though she rarely saw it herself. Her skin was a deep, radiant ebony that seemed to absorb the city lights. Her figure turned heads, and she possessed a smile that could disarm a soldier, though she kept it hidden behind a wall of defensive stoicism. Now, she clutched her high heels in her hands, walking barefoot on the rough concrete. The rain intensified, soaking her to the skin, washing away the perfume she had worn for Mason. Across the city, in a luxury hotel suite, Hannah tossed restlessly in the massive king-size bed. Sleep refused to come. She punched the pillow, frustration mounting with each passing minute. What kind of man is Seo Ji-hoon? She groaned to the empty room. After all her careful planning, her theatrical fainting spell, and the perfect setup, he hadn't taken her to his mansion. He hadn't sat by her bedside holding her hand. He had simply checked her into a hotel, paid for the room, sent his personal doctor to examine her, and then left with a curt promise to return the next morning. That wasn't the plan, she hissed. She had wanted to be with him tonight, to trap him in a web of intimacy. But she hadn't completely failed. At least she would see him tomorrow. Meanwhile, Seo Ji-hoon drove his sleek black sedan through the storm. The wipers slashed back and forth, fighting a losing battle against the deluge. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. That girl was certainly something else, he muttered. His doctor had called 10 minutes ago. Nothing wrong with her, sir. No concussion. Vital signs normal. She's sleeping. She had been faking. Of course she had. She faked the incident to lure him to her bed. The audacity was almost impressive, but mostly it was just exhausting. Did she think he was an amateur? That he would take a strange woman to his private residence? He never brought random women home. His sanctuary was the one place the parasites couldn't reach him. The rain pounded against his windshield, making the road nearly impossible to see. He squinted, navigating carefully through the fog. Suddenly, his headlights caught a figure walking along the roadside. His first instinct was to drive past. It was late, and stopping was dangerous. But something compelled him to lift his foot off the gas. He rolled down his window, rain immediately soaking his sleeve. He was surprised to discover it was a woman, walking carelessly through the downpour, shoes clutched in her hands, head held high as if she were walking a runway instead of a flooded street. "What a strange sight," he whispered. "Who does that?" "Hello," he called out, slowing the car to a crawl beside her. "Why are you walking in the rain? Can I give you a ride?" No response. Adanna continued walking, her gaze fixed on the darkness ahead, as if he hadn't spoken. He frowned. "Miss? Please get in. I can take you home. It's not safe out here." Still nothing. She moved forward with a rhythmic, trance-like gait. A thought occurred to him. What if she's deaf? He quickly put the car in park and jumped out, not bothering to grab an umbrella. The rain soaked him instantly, ruining his silk shirt, but he jogged to catch up to her. "Hey," he said, stepping in front of her. She stopped, looking at him with eyes that were dark, hollow, and frighteningly intense. Ji-hoon began moving his hands awkwardly from side to side, attempting sign language based on vague memories of a charity event he had attended years ago. He pointed to the car, then to her, then made a steering wheel motion. Adanna stared at him as if he were performing a circus act. She blinked, water dripping from her long lashes. He knew his signing was terrible, but he hoped she might understand. He couldn't just abandon a deaf woman in a storm. When she still didn't respond, another thought, darker and more irrational, crossed his mind. What if she's a ghost? The Korean folklore stories his grandmother used to tell him flooded his brain. A woman in white, or a soaking wet dress, walking alone on a rainy night. His heart raced with sudden panic. Is this how I die? Leaving behind my empire, my music, because I picked up a spirit? He shook his head, scolding himself. Don't be a coward, Ji-hoon. Taking a deep breath, he reached out and grabbed her hand gently. Her skin was freezing. Look, you have to trust me. Let me give you a ride. It's raining and it's too dangerous for you to be out here alone. Adanna ripped her hand away as if he had burned her. The contact snapped her out of her daze. Stay the hell out of my business, she snapped, her voice cracking with raw emotion. She glared at him, a fierce, wounded animal protecting its territory. Just leave me alone. She turned and marched into the darkness, her bare feet splashing in the puddles. Ji-hoon stood there, stunned, rain dripping from his nose. Well, I'm happy you're not deaf, he muttered to himself, watching her retreating figure. Stay safe, he called after her, but she had already disappeared into the veil of rain. He stood there for a moment longer, shivering, feeling an inexplicable pull toward the darkness where she had vanished. The next morning, the sun rose over Seoul, indifferent to the dramas of the night before. But at Hanglo Records, the storm was just beginning. Chaos reigned outside the glass-fronted skyscraper. Dozens of media personnel, journalists, and bloggers pushed against the security barricade, a writhing mass of cameras and microphones. Please, everyone, calm down, the head of security bellowed, his arms spread wide. Our CEO hasn't arrived yet. This disruption is interfering with business. We want a statement, a reporter screamed back. Suddenly, a sleek Range Rover with tinted windows pulled through the gates, flanking the crowd. The vehicle came to a smooth stop, and Seo Ji-hoon emerged from the back seat. He looked impeccable in a gray suit, wearing dark sunglasses to hide the fatigue in his eyes. The moment he appeared, the media surged forward like a tidal wave. Mr. Seo. Mr. Seo. A female reporter managed to duck under a guard's arm, thrusting her microphone inches from Ji-hoon's face. Mr. Seo, we received reports that a woman collapsed while dancing with you at a strip club last night. Can you confirm if this is true? Is she your secret girlfriend? Did you push her? Another shouted. Is Hanglo Records trying to cover up an assault? The questions overlapped into a wall of noise. Ji-hoon's expression remained stone-cold. He fixed his gaze straight ahead, his jaw locked. His security detail closed ranks around him, forming a human shield. He moved steadily toward the building entrance, ignoring the flashing lights and the accusations. He felt a migraine building behind his eyes. He disappeared through the revolving glass doors, leaving the vultures hungry. That evening, the rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and cold. Adanna walked along a street in the Pyeongchang-dong district, an area where the air smelled different. It smelled of old money and silence. She checked the address on the crumpled piece of paper she had pulled from a job board earlier that day. She found herself standing before a massive black gate that seemed to stretch up to the sky. It was intimidating, a fortress designed to keep people like her out. Gathering her courage, she knocked firmly. Bang, bang, bang. "Who is there?" a male voice called from the intercom. "Good evening, sir. I'm here to interview for the position of a cook," Adanna responded, her voice steady despite her nerves. The small pedestrian door in the gate swung open, revealing a young man in a security uniform. He looked her up and down, his expression professional but guarded. "I'm sorry, miss," he said. "My employer isn't home right now. He's running late at the office. Please come back tomorrow evening." Adanna's shoulders sagged slightly. She didn't have money for another bus fare. "Okay, sir. Thank you." "You're welcome," he replied, closing the gate with a click of finality. Back at the small, cramped apartment Adanna was currently squatting in, the mood was vastly different. In the Hannah fan club headquarters, which was just Hannah's apartment, the three friends were debriefing. Hannah stormed into the living room, throwing her designer bag onto the couch with violent force. "Hi, girls," she said, her voice flat and dangerous. Sora looked up from her phone with a mischievous grin. "Hey there, celebrity girlfriend. You're trending on Twitter. #mysterygirl, #Seo Ji-hoon. How did everything go? Did you get the morning after breakfast in bed? I don't want to talk about it. I am so angry right now I could scream." Hannah paced the room. "Can you believe that Ji-hoon put me up in a hotel and just left me there? Alone. He promised he'd check on me. I waited all morning. And who shows up? His assistant. With an envelope of cash for taxi fare and a message that Mr. Seo hopes I feel better and never wants to see me again." Gina burst into laughter, choking on her soda. "You're joking." Sora doubled over, clutching her stomach. "So much for your perfect plan. Oh my God, this is too much. He paid you off like a bad taxi ride. Wait, are you two mocking me?" Hannah's eyes flashed with indignation. No, Sora gasped between fits of laughter. "It's just hilarious. We thought after your Oscar-worthy fainting act, you'd be choosing China patterns by now. That guy is smarter than we gave him credit for." "You're both insane," Hannah snapped, storming off to her bedroom and slamming the door. Behind her, the laughter only intensified. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the drama so far, please leave a comment telling us who your favorite character is. Is it the savage Adanna? The cool Ji-hoon? Or the delusional Hannah? Let us know below and make sure you're subscribed. The next day, Adanna arrived at the imposing black gate at exactly 5 p.m. She had walked half the way to save money. She knocked, and the same security guard opened the gate. "Good evening. Am I too early or too late?" she asked, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead. "Neither. You're right on time. Come in," he said, stepping aside. Adanna stepped through the threshold and stopped. The world outside the gate was gray and dusty. The world inside was technicolor. The driveway was paved with interlocking stones that looked like they were scrubbed daily with a toothbrush. Manicured hedges lined the path, and ancient pine trees stood like sentinels. At the far end, a garage with glass doors revealed a collection of cars that cost more than the GDP of a small country. The gateman led her to a waiting room near the main house. "Madam Kim, she's also here for the interview," the gateman said to an elderly woman with silver hair tied in a tight bun. She radiated authority, but had kind eyes. "Oh, what a beautiful young lady. Come sit here, dear," Madam Kim said, gesturing to an empty chair. "Thank you, ma'am," Adanna said, taking her seat. She looked around. There were 9 people total, 8 women and 1 man. And immediately, Adanna felt out of place. The other women were dressed aggressively. Short skirts, plunging necklines, heavy makeup. They looked like they were auditing for a music video, not a kitchen staff position. They whispered amongst themselves, eyeing Adanna's simple jeans and blouse with sneers. "Next," Madam Kim called out. A woman emerged from the interview room, looking flushed and angry, stumbling in heels that were clearly weapons of torture. Adanna watched her go. If you can't walk in them, don't wear them, she thought. You look like a newborn giraffe. Finally, Madam Kim called her name. Adanna Okafor? Adanna stood up, smoothing her clothes. Nervousness coursed through her body, making her hands cold. She needed this job. She needed it desperately. She stepped into the main living room, and her breath hitched. It was a masterpiece of modern design, high ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows, and art that looked priceless. Her eyes wandered to a large framed photograph on the wall. It was a man, shirtless, modeling for some brand. You should really put on a shirt, she muttered under her breath, shaking her head. Did you say something? The voice was deep, familiar, and came from right behind her. Adanna spun around, and her heart nearly stopped. Standing there was the man from the rain. But he wasn't soaked and desperate now. He was immaculate. He wore a casual white linen shirt and dark trousers. He was, objectively, the most handsome man she had ever seen. His eyes were like pools of dark water, framed by lashes that should be illegal on a man. He was the man in the portrait. "Are you done staring?" he asked, arching an eyebrow. "Yes," she managed to reply, her throat dry. "Now, let's get down to business." He walked past her and sat on a white leather couch. "Can I have your portfolio?" Portfolio. Adanna's mind raced. Portfolio for cooking? Does he want pictures of jollof rice? "I'm quite certain you're not deaf," he said, his gaze sharpening. It was a callback to the night before, but he didn't seem to recognize her yet. "I asked for your portfolio." "I'm sorry, sir, but I don't have one with me." "Why not?" He paused, looking bored. "Well, then use the door. I really don't have time to waste on amateurs." "Sir, I didn't know I was supposed to bring a file. I cook with my hands and my heart, not with paper." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "How did you even know I needed a cook?" "I'm from the agency." "I see." He opened a notepad on the coffee table. "Fine. You're here. Tell me about yourself." "I'm Adanna Okafor from Nigeria. I'm 20 years old." She paused. "Do you have any work experience?" he asked, pen poised. "Not really, sir, but I used to work at a local restaurant back home. I know flavors. I know how to make food that makes people happy." "I've worked as a head chef in a French restaurant for 2 years," a female voice interrupted from the doorway. Adanna turned. A woman walked in, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. She was stunning in a plastic, manufactured way, wearing a dress that cost more than Adanna's entire life savings. "Why did you stop working there?" the woman asked, walking toward Ji-hoon. "Because she probably stole something and got kicked out." Adanna clenched her fists. "Who is this witch?" "So young, or should I say, Choi Yuna, you're here," Ji-hoon said, not looking up. "Yes, sweetheart," Yuna replied, throwing her arms around his neck and kissing him deeply, right in front of Adanna. Adanna stood there, looking at the ceiling, the floor, the expensive vase, anywhere but at the couple's sucking face on the couch. Some people really lack basic manners. "Honey, what's going on here?" Yuna asked, finally pulling away and settling onto his lap as if she owned him. "Are all those women I saw outside here for a job interview or for a bachelor auction?" "Why? Are you jealous?" he teased, though his eyes remained cool. "Yes, darling," she purred. "In fact, I already asked them to leave." "You did what?" Ji-hoon frowned. "I told them to leave. I don't want them trying to seduce you. You know how women are." She kissed his cheek. Adanna cleared her throat loudly. "Ahem." They stopped. "You shouldn't have sent them away." "I haven't found a cook who meets my standards yet," Ji-hoon said. "Yes, we have," Yuna said, pointing a manicured finger at Adanna. "She's standing right in front of us." "Congratulations, nobody. You're hired." Yuna extended a hand that looked like it had never touched dishwater in its life. Adanna ignored the hand. "I'm Adanna, not nobody. "Whatever," Yuna snapped, withdrawing her hand. "Yuna, we can't just hire her," Ji-hoon argued. "How can you be sure she's even competent? She has no portfolio." "She is. I can tell." "I like her," Yuna said, standing up and walking a slow circle around Adanna. "She's plain. She's affordable. And look at her. She's bold, but she's clearly desperate. She won't try to steal you from me, Ji-hoon." She knows her place. Adanna bit the inside of her cheek until she tasted blood. Plain? Affordable? I will show you plain. Fine. I'm tired of interviews anyway, Ji-hoon sighed. He looked at Adanna. Adanna, correct? Yes, sir. Good. I'm Seo Ji-hoon, your new employer. Do your job well or you'll be fired immediately. Madam Kim will explain your duties, salary, and everything else. Madam Kim, he called out. Yes, Ji-hoon, the housekeeper entered. Meet our new cook. Please inform her of everything. Of course. Madam Kim smiled warmly at Adanna, a stark contrast to the ice in the room. Come with me, beautiful one. Later that evening, Adanna walked back to her apartment, feeling a mix of elation and rage. She had the job. 800,000 won a month. It was a lifeline. She walked into her compound, whistling. But the tune died on her lips. Her belongings, her small suitcase, her box of books, her few clothes, were piled in the dirt outside her door. The lock had been changed. Sitting on a plastic chair nearby was her landlord, Mr. Gu, a greasy man with wandering eyes and a potbelly. Good evening, Mr. Gu, she said, her voice trembling with suppressed anger. Why are my things outside? There's no need for questions, Adanna, he sneered, standing up. I'm not interested in hearing your pleas. Your rent expired 3 months ago. Pack your trash and vacate my premises. Someone else is moving in tomorrow morning who can actually pay. Adanna laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. Is that why you're shouting? Relax. I didn't come to beg you. She walked over to her pile of things. I actually came to tell you that I'd like to donate my furniture, the bed, the table, everything inside, to the new tenant. If they don't want it, you can have it. She picked up her bag of clothes. Enjoy sleeping on my old mattress, you disgusting pervert. She turned and walked away. Adanna! Adanna, come here! Mr. Goose shouted, shocked. He had expected tears. He had expected her to offer favors in exchange for staying. But she had shattered his expectations. Adanna didn't look back. She walked into the night, homeless but hired. Nana, Madam Kim, had told her she could start work immediately and that the staff lived in the mansion. It was perfect timing. The next morning, Adanna was jolted awake from a peaceful dream by a bucket of ice-cold water hitting her face. Wake up! Adanna gasped, sputtering, wiping water from her eyes. Standing over her was Yuna, holding an empty bucket, looking like a demon in a silk robe. Don't you understand that it's morning? Yuna screamed. My fiancé leaves for work at 7 a.m. Breakfast isn't ready. Get your lazy behind the kitchen now. Adanna scrambled out of the small staff bed, her heart hammering. I'm sorry, I didn't set my alarm. I don't care. Move. Adanna rushed to the kitchen. Thankfully, Madam Kim had prepped her on the layout. She worked in a frenzy, her hands flying as she chopped vegetables and whisked eggs. By 7 a.m., a spread of Korean and Western breakfast dishes was on the table. Adanna stood by the wall, hands clasped, as Ji-hoon and Yuna sat down to eat. What are you waiting for? Get out of here, Yuna snapped, picking up her fork. Adanna turned to leave. Hey, come back here. Adanna froze and turned back. Yes, ma'am. What kind of hair is this? Yuna asked, pointing her fork at Adanna's thick, glorious afro. I don't understand, ma'am. It's untidy. It's huge. It looks like a bird's nest. I need you to cut it short. I don't want to find kinky hairs in my food, especially not from a dirty pig like you. Adanna's eyes widened. Pig? So young. Yuna. What's wrong with her hair? Ji-hoon spoke for the first time, not looking up from his tablet. She doesn't have to cut it. Braiding it and covering it while cooking is perfectly fine. It's hygienic. But darling. Drop it, he said firmly. Thank you, sir, Adanna whispered, quickly exiting the dining room before Yuna could explode. In the hallway, she met the other staff. Hey, Adanna, a young woman with a bright smile whispered. I'm Sumin, the cleaner. This is Chol-soo, the gardener. We hope you last, Chol-soo said ominously. Yuna is a witch. She hates female staff. She thinks everyone wants her man. I heard, Adanna said, rolling her eyes. She's insane. Just keep your head down, Sumin advised. And never, ever go into the master bedroom. Only Madam Kim and Yuna are allowed there. Mr. Seo values his privacy more than his life. Noted, Adanna said. That night, exhaustion claimed her early. Adanna fell into a deep sleep. But Adanna had a secret she hadn't mentioned in the interview. When she was extremely stressed, she sleepwalked. At 2 a.m., Adanna rose from her bed, eyes wide open but seeing nothing. She walked out of the staff quarters, down the long marble hallway, and up the grand staircase. She didn't turn toward the kitchen. She turned toward the double oak doors at the end of the hall. She pushed open the door to the master bedroom. Ji-hoon was asleep, the room cool and dark. Adanna walked to the side of the bed, climbed in, and curled up next to him, pulling the expensive duvet over her shoulders. She sighed contentedly, muttering in her sleep. Mason. I love you. Ji-hoon stirred. He felt a weight on the bed. He reached out, thinking it was Yuna. His hand brushed against hair that was soft, but textured like wool. He froze. He smelled shea butter, not Yuna's Chanel perfume. He flipped the bedside lamp on. He scrambled back, nearly falling off the bed. Lying there, drooling slightly on his pillow, was his new cook. What are you doing here? He roared, shaking her. Adanna's eyes snapped open. She saw Ji-hoon, shirtless, furious. She saw the room. Your room, she squeaked. Oh my God. Get out. Sir, I was sleeping. I didn't know. Get out. Adanna fled the room, tears of humiliation stinging her eyes. She ran all the way back to her quarters, heart pounding. I'm fired. I am so fired. The next morning, the house was silent. Adanna cooked breakfast with trembling hands. When she served it, only Yuna was at the table. Where is Sir? She asked timidly. He left, Yuna said, smirking. He said he lost his appetite. Something about a rat in his room last night. Adanna's stomach dropped. He hadn't eaten. He was furious. She went back to the kitchen, pacing. I can't lose this job. I have nowhere to go. Sumin walked in. He didn't eat? No. He hates me. Well, you did break the one rule, Sumin said sympathetically. Wait, Adanna said, eyes lighting up. I have an idea. What idea? If the mountain won't come to Muhammad, Muhammad must go to the mountain. I'm going to pack his breakfast and take it to his office at Hanglo Records. Are you crazy? Sumin gasped. Security will eat you alive. I don't care, Adanna said, grabbing a bento box. I'm going to make him forgive me, even if I have to force-feed him. Adanna packed the food, fixed her hair, and marched out the door, determination burning in her eyes. She had no idea she was walking straight into a lion's den. The towering glass facade of Hanglo Records reflected the gray Seoul sky, looking less like a music company and more like a fortress built to keep commoners out. Adanna stood at the base of the skyscraper, clutching the bento box wrapped in a modest pink cloth against her chest. Her heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs, a stark contrast to the confident march she had adopted, leaving the mansion. Up close, the building was intimidating. It was a world of wealth, power, and secrets, Seo Ji-hoon's world. And she was just the cook who had accidentally slept in his bed. You can do this, Adanna, she whispered to herself, tightening her grip on the lunchbox. It's just food. Everyone eats food. Even angry, handsome CEOs. She smoothed down her skirt, took a deep breath that filled her lungs with the scent of city exhaust and expensive coffee, and pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was an expanse of white marble and chrome, freezing cold and eerily quiet despite the people bustling about. Men in sharp suits and women in heels that clicked like ticking clocks moved with purpose. Adanna felt the eyes on her immediately. She stood out not just because of her skin, but because of her attire. She wasn't wearing the tailored armor of the corporate world. She was wearing jeans and a simple blouse, looking every bit the outsider. She approached the reception desk, where a woman with a perfectly symmetrical bob and a headset sat typing furiously. Excuse me, Adanna said, flashing her warmest, most disarming smile. The receptionist didn't stop typing. Deliveries are at the back entrance, B2. I'm not a delivery driver, Adanna said, keeping her voice polite but firm. I'm here to see Mr. Seo Ji-hoon. I'm his personal chef. The typing stopped. The receptionist looked up, her eyes scanning Adanna from her natural hair down to her scuffed sneakers. A small, dismissive smirk played on her lips. Mr. Seo's personal chef? You. Yes, me, Adanna said, lifting her chin. I have his lunch. He missed breakfast this morning, and it is vital he eats. I'm sure it is, the receptionist drawled, clearly not believing a word. Do you have an appointment? No, but... Then you can't go up. Mr. Seo is in meetings all day. He doesn't accept unsolicited visitors, especially not. She waved a hand vaguely at Adanna. Fans with homemade gifts. Please leave before I call security. I am not a fan. Adanna's temper, usually kept on a tight leash, began to fray. I live in his house. I work for him. Call Madam Kim if you don't believe me. Security, the receptionist called out, her voice sharp. Two burly men in black suits stepped away from the wall, moving toward Adanna. Stop right there. Things are about to get heated. Adanna is risking everything to save her job, but it looks like she might get thrown out onto the street instead. Before we see if she manages to get past these guards, I need you to do something crucial. Smash that subscribe button. Yes, you. If you want to know if Adanna conquers the CEO's heart, or just his stomach, you need to be subscribed. Like this video, comment, let her in, and subscribe to find out what happens next. Done? Okay, back to the drama. Adanna took a step back, hugging the lunchbox protectively. Don't touch me, she warned the approaching guards. I'm telling you, he needs this food. Miss, you need to leave the premises, one of the guards said, reaching for her arm. Wait. The single word cut through the lobby like a knife. It wasn't shouted, but it carried an authority that froze everyone in place. The elevator doors at the far end of the lobby had opened. Seo Ji-hoon stepped out, flanked by three nervous-looking executives. He looked even colder than he had the night before. His suit was sharp enough to cut glass, but there were dark circles under his eyes, and his jaw was set in a tight line of irritation. He stopped, his gaze locking onto the commotion at the front desk. He squinted, looking at the woman being cornered by his security team. Sir, we're just handling a disturbance, the receptionist said quickly, her voice pitching up into a sweet, professional tone. This woman claims to be your chef. Ji-hoon walked forward, the sea of employees parting for him. He stopped 3 feet from Adanna. He looked at the guards, then at the receptionist, and finally at Adanna, who stood defiant but trembling slightly. Adanna, he said, his voice laced with confusion. Good afternoon, sir, she said, straightening her posture. You didn't eat breakfast. I brought you lunch. The lobby went silent. The receptionist's jaw dropped. Ji-hoon looked at the pink-wrapped box in her hands, then back at her face. He saw the determination in her eyes, the same fire he had seen in the rain. A ghost of a smile, or perhaps just amusement, twitched at the corner of his mouth. You came all the way here, he asked. The mountain wouldn't come to Muhammad, she quoted, breathless. He stared at her for a long second, making her sweat. Then he turned to the guards. Let her through. Sir, the receptionist stammered. But the protocol. She's my staff, Ji-hoon said coldly, not sparing the woman a glance. And I'm hungry. He turned back to Adanna. Follow me. Adanna shot a triumphant look at the receptionist, who looked like she had swallowed a lemon, and hurried after him. The elevator ride was excruciating. It was just Adanna and Ji-hoon in the glass box shooting up toward the sky. The city shrank beneath them. Adanna clutched the bento box, the silence stretching until it felt suffocating. I'm sorry about last night, she blurted out when the silence became too much. Ji-hoon didn't look at her. He watched the numbers climb. Which part? The part where you broke into my room, or the part where you drooled on my Egyptian cotton pillow? Adanna groaned, covering her face with one hand. I sleepwalk. It happens when I'm stressed. I thought I was in my room. I swear, sir, I have never been so embarrassed in my life. Please don't fire me. The elevator dinged at the top floor. The doors slid open. I haven't decided yet, Ji-hoon said, stepping out. Let's see if the food is worth the intrusion. His office was massive, a minimalist expanse of black leather, chrome, and glass. It felt lonely. He sat behind his desk and gestured for her to place the box in front of him. Adanna unwrapped the pink cloth with shaking hands. She opened the lid. Inside was a perfectly arranged doserac, fluffy white rice, spicy stir-fried pork with a rich red glaze, a rolled omelet with scallions, and seasoned spinach. The steam rose up, carrying a scent of garlic, sesame oil, and spice that instantly filled the sterile room. Ji-hoon's stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. Adanna bit her lip to keep from smiling. "Please eat." Ji-hoon picked up the chopsticks. He hesitated, looking at the food. It looked homemade. It didn't look like the gourmet, molecular gastronomy meals he usually ordered. It looked like something his grandmother used to make before the money, before the fame. He took a bite of the pork. The flavor exploded in his mouth, spicy, savory, with a hint of sweetness. It was hot, comforting, and utterly delicious. He took a bite of the rice, then the omelet. He ate quickly, the tension in his shoulders visibly dropping with every mouthful. Adanna watched him, her hands clasped behind her back. "Please like it. Please like it." He finished half the box in silence before setting the chopsticks down and looking at her. The cold mask was gone, replaced by a look of genuine curiosity. "Where did you learn to cook Korean food like this?" he asked softly. "You're Nigerian." "Food is a language, sir," Adanna said, relaxing slightly. "I listen to what the ingredients want to say. And I learned from my uncle's wife before she passed. She said cooking is about memory." Ji-hoon looked at the remaining food. "It tastes like home," he admitted, his voice low. "My grandmother used to make pork like this." "Madam Kim told me it was your favorite," Adanna confessed. Ji-hoon leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You have talent, Adanna. I'll give you that." "Does that mean I'm not fired?" she asked hopefully. "For now," he said. "But if you ever, and I mean ever, enter my room uninvited again, no amount of spicy pork will save you. Do you understand?" "Loud and clear, sir." "I'll lock my door from the inside. I'll tie my leg to the bedpost if I have to." Ji-hoon actually chuckled. It was a rusty sound, deep and surprising. "That won't be necessary. Just be careful." For a moment, the air between them shifted. It wasn't boss and employee. It was just a man and a woman sharing a quiet moment in a high tower. Ji-hoon looked at her lips, then quickly up to her eyes, clearing his throat. "You can go now," he said, abruptly returning to his business persona. "Tell the driver to take you home." "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir." Adanna beamed, bowing quickly. She packed up the empty containers, feeling lighter than air. She had done it. She had survived. She turned to the door, her hand on the handle. Suddenly, the door flew open from the outside. Adanna gasped, stumbling back. Standing in the doorway, looking like a storm cloud in a designer trench coat, was Choi Yuna. Her eyes widened as she saw Adanna standing in the office, and then they narrowed into slits of pure venom. "You!" Yuna hissed. She looked from Adanna to the empty lunchbox on Ji-hoon's desk, and then to Ji-hoon, who looked suddenly exhausted. "What is she doing here?" Yuna demanded, stepping into the room and slamming the door behind her. "Oh no. Just when we thought Adanna was safe, the dragon has entered the dungeon." Yuna does not look happy, and we all know what she's capable of. Before the explosion happens, I need to remind you, if you are not subscribed, you are missing out on the best tea on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button right now to support the channel and to see if Adanna makes it out of this office alive. Don't forget to like and comment. Run, Adanna, run. "Okay, let's see the confrontation." Yuna, Ji-hoon said, standing up. "Calm down. She just brought me lunch." "Lunch?" Yuna laughed, a high, brittle sound. She walked over to Adanna, invading her personal space. "So, the maid is now a delivery girl? Or did you just use lunch as an excuse to come here and throw yourself at him again?" "I didn't throw myself at anyone," Adanna said, her voice steady though her knees shook. "Mr. Seo missed breakfast. It is my job to ensure he eats. Your job is to stay in the kitchen and be invisible." Yuna screamed, poking Adanna in the chest with a manicured nail. "I told you this morning you are a servant. You do not come to his office." You do not embarrass him in front of his employees. She didn't embarrass me, Ji-hoon interjected, but his voice lacked the force it had earlier. He hated conflict, especially with Yuna. She just brought food, Yuna. Let it go. Let it go. Yuna turned on him, eyes blazing. You let this nobody into your private workspace? You ate her food? How do you know she didn't poison it? Or put a love spell in it? These people do that, you know. Excuse me. Adanna stepped forward, her Nigerian spirit flaring up. What do you mean by these people? I cook with integrity. And for your information, he enjoyed it. Shut up. Yuna slapped the empty bento box out of Adanna's hand. It clattered to the floor, the plastic cracking. Don't you dare speak back to me. I am the future mistress of this house. You are dirt. Adanna looked at the broken box, then at Ji-hoon. She waited for him to defend her. She waited for the man who had just shared a laugh with her to step in and tell his fiancée she was out of line. But Ji-hoon stood silent. He looked away, running a hand through his hair, unwilling to deal with Yuna's tantrum in the middle of a workday. The silence was louder than Yuna's screaming. Adanna felt a cold stone settle in her stomach. He wasn't going to help her. To him, she was just a cook. To him, keeping the peace with his wealthy fiancé was more important than her dignity. I apologize, ma'am, Adanna said quietly, her voice devoid of emotion. She bent down and picked up the broken pieces of the lunchbox. It won't happen again. She didn't look at Ji-hoon. She couldn't. She walked past Yuna, who was smirking triumphantly, and exited the office. As the door clicked shut, Ji-hoon looked at the spot where Adanna had stood. He felt a sudden, sharp pang of guilt in his chest, bitter like bile. Why is she so annoying? Yuna huffed, dusting off her coat. You really need to fire her, darling. She's too bold. Get out, Yuna, Ji-hoon said, his voice dropping to a whisper. What? I said, get out, he said louder, looking at her with cold, dead eyes. I have work to do. Adanna didn't take the company car. She walked. She walked all the way to the subway station, clutching the broken box. She wasn't going to cry. She refused to give them the satisfaction. But as she sat on the plastic seat of the train, watching the dark tunnel rush by, she made a vow. I will not be a victim, she thought, her eyes hardening. I will work. I will make my money. And one day, I will buy this whole city, and people like Choi Yuna will be the ones begging for a meeting. She returned to the mansion, entered the kitchen, and began prepping dinner as if nothing had happened. But when she chopped the vegetables, the knife hit the cutting board with a little more force than necessary. Chop, chop, chop. Later that night, the rain returned. It seemed to follow Adanna. She was in her room, reading a book, when a knock came at her door. It was soft, hesitant. She opened it to find Madam Kim standing there, holding a small envelope. This came for you, Madam Kim said gently. A courier just dropped it off. Adanna took the envelope. It was thick, creamy paper. There was no return address. Thank you, Nana, Adanna said. She closed the door and tore open the seal. Inside was a crisp 50,000 won bill and a handwritten note. The handwriting was sharp, jagged, and elegant. For the bento box. The food was adequate. S.J. Adanna stared at the note. Adequate, she scoffed. Arrogant man. But she didn't throw the note away. She tucked it into her Bible. A small smile touched her lips. He had noticed. He had felt guilty. It wasn't an apology, not really. But it was a start. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the mansion's garden, a figure watched Adanna's window. The glow of a cigarette illuminated a scarred face. It was Mr. Gu, the landlord who had evicted her. But he wasn't alone. He was talking on a phone. Yes, she's here, Mr. Gu rasped into the receiver. Working for the Seo family. I found her. A pause. No, she doesn't know about the debt her father left behind. But she will. And when she does, she'll do anything we say. He laughed, a dry, rattling sound, and crushed the cigarette under his boot. What? Adanna's troubles are far from over. Who is Mr. Gu talking to? What debt? And what is going to happen when Mason, remember him, decides he wants her back now that she's working for a billionaire? The plot is thickening and the secrets are about to spill. You do not want to miss the next episode of Afro-Korean Soul Tales. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're the first to know what happens next. Comment "Save Adanna" below if you're rooting for her. Thanks for watching and see you in the next story.